Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon and Jacob Padilla.
That's the big voice guy. I actually saw the big voice guy. He was in studio the other day, and he's actually a big voice guy. Like, my man is Jack. But anyway, that means it's another week of Nebraska Preps postgame, which means I give my man Jacob Padilla, who is cooler than a fan, because we should have started exactly a half an hour ago. So how about that? Young Jacob, how are you? Glad you could be patient with my crazy producer. Actually, we share him since both of you and I work for the same people.
That is true.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
I feel like I've seen you about 36 consecutive days. How are things?
Yeah, it's been a fun last few days here, wrapping up the high school football season, and here we are to talk about it.
Was it cool? So, you've obviously got to cover your collegiate sports. So you got to knock out all the pressers yesterday and cover high school sports. How convenient was that?
Yeah, so convenient is one way, busy, hectic. Well, so I hosted the morning show on 1620 with Robbie Lula on Monday. So that was from 6 to 10. Then I drove down and covered the last quarter and the last two games on Monday. And obviously the Class A game was basically a game and a half. So I didn't get home until well after midnight. And then back at it Tuesday, had covered 3 games, 2 different press conferences. I watched the Creighton game from the press box while I was covering the Class B state title game. So that was difficult, trying to bounce back and forth between.
So I rewatched that again this morning at about 5:20, and it may be that's last 6 minutes may be better than it was last night. How about the environment when it's supposed to be a neutral site? Now, the floor is terrible and it's ugly, and I get over that. But
yeah, we need to wipe those 2 turnovers away from Ryan Nemhard's stat line, because that was entirely on the floor. He just straight up slipped on the floor. Nothing defense did.
I don't understand. But anyway, the officiating, listen, you know me, I don't get into it. I was particularly bothered in our game at the high school level, and we were told to flush that, so I won't say anything about that either. But what was that?
So
what was that?
Well, and the Arkansas side went nuclear on it. Like, even their ADs tweeting out the 3 blind mice little.
You don't see that a ton.
And a player, Trayvon Brazil, quote tweeted with 5 versus 8 and then deleted it because, that was dumb. So,
hey, how do you really feel?
The foul differential was 22 to 16, 22 on Arkansas, 16 on Creighton. Arkansas fouled 5 times intentionally in the last 40 seconds to extend the game. There was also a technical on the bench. So those are 6 of the 22 fouls. Wipe those away. It's 16-16.
I think it's the fact that, and maybe it's how the fouls occur, but Creighton did shoot 29 free throws.
Again, 10 of those were at the end.
And Arkansas shoots. Listen, I understand, but not all missed calls or calls are created equally. So I think that's the thing. It's not just the statistical number, and I think you kind of know that. It can be situational.
It was, but I just didn't see a completely one-sided. This is the reason they won.
And I don't think it for Arkansas's vantage point. I don't think it was. I think the game overall.
But there was some weird stretches.
Needed more control. I don't think it was one-sided. I think even Creighton. I think both of them. Well, I don't know about what Arkansas is going to say because they lost. But had they won, I think it would have been more the, hey man, both teams were the beneficiary of some suspect calls.
100%.
But when you lose, it's always that angle.
Yeah. Well, and I guess seeing the way that the adults acted afterward.
Are you using that loosely? Are you being facetious?
Well, just looking at Musselman's post-game interview, and
he's so intense. Oh my goodness.
And obviously the AD, it makes sense now why the players reacted the way. Jordan Walsh
reflection of
is losing his mind on a clear, obvious foul. Just ran through the guy and somehow doesn't think it's a foul. The players kind of take their cues from their coach, and I understand now why they reacted the way they did for stretches. But Yeah. So I was doing that, and then I went home, recorded a podcast on Nebraska basketball with my buddy Bigelow, Nebraska Shooter on Podcast. You should subscribe to that as well. And then wrote a column.
Subscribe
So
to Jacob's podcast with my main man, JB. Arguably, it's close because you guys work together. Nicer guy in sports, just unassuming. He's low-key funny. I don't know how you guys stay on script, but hey, you guys do you. It's great, right? Like, I think he's funny.
Yeah. Speaking on staying on script, I think we lost the script with this
Did
one.
we already?
Yeah,
Well,
we're here to talk about high school football because there were
sometimes
some great performances. One just fantastic game for the ages. And let's start talking about that.
Yeah, well, let's go to D2.
Okay.
You want to start from the bottom and work your way up, or do you want to start at the top and go down? Do we like D's or A's? You're a good student.
I feel like we need to lead off with the Class A game.
Okay.
Just let's get that out of the way. And
the A student wants to lead off with A's. What do we do?
43-41 final, Omaha Westside, in case you somehow missed what happened in that game. Just back and forth, phenomenal game. The very different game than we saw last year in the state title, where it was 7-3 final. We had 14 points within the first few minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess just from your perspective, kind of what was your overall takeaway or feeling after that game as someone that was involved in it, that was on the sideline?
I think for us,
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. We were, there were so many highs and lows, right? I think early on, there was a level of frustration. The two concept routes were, we gave up the big plays, just fell asleep situationally. And good on Gretna too, because they run this action, this little scissors action, and they set it up with motion, and it's to cause confusion. And we could rep it and rep it and rep it in practice, and it happened to us real time, and we dropped the ball. You just have two guys running wide open, turn free. It was frustrating.
52
early.
and 80 yards on those two touchdowns.
And we felt like in the first half, defensively, like some of our looks and coverages, I felt like he had a hard. Zane Flores had a really hard time with. If we hadn't given up those two busts. So at the half, we felt really, really good that we could logistically kind of control our own destiny. But then the second half happened, and he got hot, right? We just gave him too many opportunities to have the football by kind of going a little stagnant on offense. And you just can't give a player that's that good that many opportunities to have the football, and he ultimately got them in a position with a chance to win.
Yeah, so game story here. You guys jumped out to a 31-14 lead in that game and feeling pretty good. And then Gretna cuts it down to 10 at halftime. And the offense kind of stalls out for you guys. Like you said, all field goals in the second half.
Yeah.
Did not score 28, scored 4 touchdowns right away, and then did not score a touchdown again. But
and we ran 18 more offensive plays than we did. We snapped the ball 75 times, and Gretna only snapped the ball 57 times. And we were 8 of 16 on third down, so you would think that would have been better. But I think playing for field goals instead of going to get touchdowns, it's tough, right? Because you think you have 3 in the bag, so sometimes you play for 3, and I think there are times that we should have stayed on the gas.
Yeah. So Flores led 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter to take the lead. Second drive took just 3 plays in 37 seconds, including probably the single most impressive play that I saw in the 2 days there, where 54-yard bomb to Blake Moore running up the sideline. He got blasted in the leg as he was releasing that thing and dropped it perfectly right over the shoulder. into the breadbasket from Moore. 54 yards to set up a touchdown for Isaiah Weber. So here we go. But gave the ball back to you guys. And Anthony Rizak, just calm, cool, collected.
Customer.
Put together the go ahead field goal drive there. I was just trying to see the last drive there. I mean, just.
So I think real quick while you're looking for that. So you think 21 of 37, 57 completion percentage for defending Flores, you give you a better chance to win.
With 3 picks,
with 3 interceptions, he chunked us for big plays. We felt like he wasn't as efficient as he normally is, but when he got us big, man. And I think ultimately that's what kept Gretna in. They're not in that game without his ability to do what he does. No. Because, mere okay high school quarterbacks would probably wilt. Yeah. That guy, not so much.
So, last drive, they kicked the ball back to you with 1:49 to go, and put together just methodical 9 plays, got yourself in the field goal range.
Which was a weird play sequence because they had done a good job in the third quarter of putting a player over the top of Caleb, which kind of neutralized him in the third quarter. But then on that last possession,
2 9-yard gains.
We kind of formationed him to try to get open and work one-on-one, and it worked to our advantage. And then Rizak scrambling Anthony ultimately is kind of what did it.
Yeah, so you had 9-yard gain to Caleb. You had 7-yard run for Rizak on 3rd and 1, 9-yard gain to Caleb, and Rizak 4-yard run on 3rd and 1, and that got you inside the 40. So at that point, I think you're feeling pretty good with the kicker that you have. Yeah. And then Gretna gets an encroachment to gift you guys 5 yards to make that even easier. So that moved the chains there, and you ran at Rizak 2 more times, ran it once, and then kind of set him up in the middle.
10-play, 40-yard drive, right? That took 1:49. 10 plays and 1:49 seconds.
4 seconds left. Alvano fires up that kick, split the uprights from 45 yards, which, 45 yards for a high school, that's most, heck, how many college kickers are you not feeling great about 45 yards with the game on the line? But, it wasn't even close to missing. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I think we have to start there with Tristan Alvano. 5 for 5, an all-class record. The Class A record previous was just 3. The all-class record was 4. And he hit 5 field goals from 50, 40, or 44, 50, 26, 45, and then 42 or 4. Yeah, so 42. So, he had 1 chip shot, and then everything else was from 40 plus. And the one from 50 was good with plenty of room to spare. And again, just drilled it. Didn't sneak it in the uprights. All these kicks were basically right down the middle.
Yeah, we're fortunate. We have a couple different sets of goalposts, and the ones that are down on the lower field are college goalposts, so we get an opportunity to kick with that. And it's such a good trio. I've told this story a little bit. We call them the 3 Musketeers, with our snapper Will DePuter, our holder Marty Mormino, and obviously Tristan Alvano. They spend so much time together. A good 45, 50 minutes every practice of just those 3, snapping, holding, kicking. Coach Moravec and Coach Jernigan do a really good job with our special teams. And I just think it's really – now Alvano's gifted, huge leg. He's a tremendous athlete. He's a good soccer player.
Yeah.
He's fast. He runs our scrappy squad. Mormino, our punter, could easily be a quarterback on most people's teams. His dad just happens to be a bone doctor, so he likes to keep him safe because he's good at soccer and has seen too many injuries. And was a key contributor to help getting Caleb back on the field. But I just think as a battery, as a threesome, they're unbelievable, and Alvano works at it, man, and I couldn't be happier for him.
And everybody was obviously freaking out during the game, has Nebraska offer this kid, like get this kid an offer, like, and they had already offered him a walk-on spot previously, and Mickey Joseph, bright and early next morning, gives him the call.
So when
he was still asleep.
I got to my phone, and he and I had talked about him earlier in the week, and he says we're going to save him a scholarship. Do we like how should we handle it? Do you want post game or pre game? I said, hey, he's cooler than a fan. I don't want to be in the middle of this. You guys do what you do. And so, because I knew he liked him, and Nebraska's staff had circled back on a couple of our guys that they said
Kenny Wilhite, big fan as well.
Yeah, that they had to come back and reevaluate. Yeah. And so I understood that. And, when I got back to my phone, all it said was kicker offered, and so that was probably 11 something. And I sent him his number, and he called at 5:40 and told me that he wasn't answering the phone. And I said, Coach, he's a high school kid. We got a pep rally here in 2 hours. He's probably asleep. And then I shot TA. I call him Magnum TA because I'm a big wrestling guy. And just the elation. He's just so thankful and so appreciative. And I just think we would be remiss, man, when you talk about high school sports and kind of all it embodies. Playing against a team like Gretna and Coach Kale and that staff, that staff is fantastic. Some of their concepts, their offensive line play, their blitz pickups, that's a well-coached team. And I think it's a joy maybe isn't the word, but it's a treat to get a chance to match wits with those guys. And I think that's everything that high school sports should embody with all the talent that was on the field.
Phenomenal game overall. And I think the picture that Ross Sternstrom tweeted out of Albano just kind of sitting on the field after taking it all in. I think, obviously, the debate kind of comes up every single year about games in Memorial Stadium versus home sites and all that type of stuff. I think kind of like that is why Memorial Stadium, like I think kids really value that opportunity, that chance to go on that field, to make the plays and just nails hitting those field goals and just taking it in afterward. Like that's something that he'll remember forever, no matter else what happens.
And it's such a weird game, right? You have these guys that have these. Look at Caleb Schnell and some of these guys that are having performances. Keenan Cotton gets a chance to flourish. Schnell gets a chance to flourish. Blake Moore, who we've been talking about his emergence, the last 4 or 5 weeks. Now, we didn't think it would come to fruition like it did, where he almost was the end of us. Yeah. But, we've kind of been talking about these guys' evolution. And as you know, just to get Caleb back.
So that's kind of where I want to go next. So Albano is a story. I think the other two stories of the game, and kind of intertwined as well, but getting Caleb back, and then the thing that I talked about previously leading into it is that I thought would be the key to the game is how Anthony Rizak would handle the pressure from that Gretna front. And those guys, like we thought they would, they were living in the backfield all night.
They get after. Stir and Mason Goldman, those guys. We found
Harrison Weber and Corbett Demma.
We found a way to neutralize Demma to some degree. But then Weber, everybody else got it.
Exactly. So Demma made some plays earlier. Like he got really close to some big time plays, and then you saw Goldman back there every other play, and then Weber ended up with 4 tackles for loss or whatever.
He was a stud. He's pretty underappreciated.
Yeah. So Justin Myers, like the guy that I don't think we ever mentioned his name. He ended up with 4 tackles for loss. Like it's just that whole defensive front. So in last year, I think that was how Gretna won that game. Is Rizak just had no time to do anything back there and wasn't ready to be able to handle that. And he was phenomenal. 27 of 36 for 337 yards, 2 touchdowns, 24 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown, the leading rusher in the game, in a game where neither team had much success on the ground outside of a couple of long runs. And Rizak, no turnovers, just this phenomenal game, showed great composure the entire game.
Those two guys converting third downs, whether it was Rizak's legs or Rizak to his counterpart, or not his counterpart, his wide receiver mate. And it just so happens, the families are best friends too. So that kind of helps. But just to see those guys be clutch was a good thing.
So yeah, Caleb Benning, week 3 hurts the collarbone against Bellevue West. Does not play the rest of the season. You guys were hoping to get him back. Semifinal.
All the inside stories, right?
Like once we got to the postseason, you're like, all right, check up. Well, what are you saying, Doc? Like, you're trying to get it back. Ultimately, decided to hold off and hope that you guys made it to the championship.
Yeah,
and
we just couldn't get him cleared, right? So, 3 weeks ago, the doctor clears him for non-contact. He clears him for basketball. He's free to, start lifting. And so we put him in a helmet and shoulder pads and didn't put him in any drills. And he was practicing with us. And then he would double dip with Coach Simons on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to get more conditioning in. So he would go to basketball Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
He'd come out with us at 4. He'd get dressed again. And, it's just weird how things work out. If Jalen Lloyd doesn't get hurt, he's not even playing offense.
And that's what makes the performance that he had all the more special, is because you guys absolutely needed it.
Yeah, we didn't want to use the game plan going in is if we make it to the finals, he's not going to play special teams and he's just going to play defense.
Yeah.
And we felt like that was going to be enough to keep us in the game.
He didn't just play offense, he was the offense. He got 18 of Rezek's 36 throws went to Caleb. Yeah. And he caught 14 of them. I don't know. He didn't have any big plays, but every third and long,
downs,
he found the sticks and got just what he needed to. Didn't have any long 30, 40 like we saw with some of the other receivers, but he moved the chains when he needed to. 14 catches for 103 yards. So complete possession receiver there. Just all the big throw. Again, 2 catches on that final game-winning drive for 9 yards that were the 2 biggest plays, like chunk yards of that drive. Really important. And then defense, talked about the 10-point lead at halftime. That was entirely on his back. His 2 interceptions led directly to the 10 points. That was the difference at halftime.
He's an unbelievable DB. He just understands offenses. He's got great hands.
Those throws that Flores made, we're not going to be able to get away with those at the next level. He'll learn that. But in high school, he absolutely could all season long. There weren't DBs that he was playing that were picking that pass off. At this level, his arm's strong enough, his touch is good enough to put the ball wherever he wants on the field. And he kind of took that for granted. And both times, Caleb just ran underneath them, picked those things off. And we were joking, giving him a hard time. Should have had a hat trick.
Yeah.
He had one that Flores threw right to him, and he just kind of fell down as the ball was in the air and couldn't quite hold on to it while he's laying on his back.
Just caught it from his butt.
But so that was those were huge plays to give you guys the lead, especially again with the way the offense stalled out a little bit. You had to rely on the field goals to get that lead early on. Ended up giving it up, but came up big again to take the lead back. So, just first game back, got 14 catches, 103 yards, 2 interceptions.
Not missing 9 weeks and just not being in peak physical. He couldn't even really train, which it's the first time I've been nervous in some years, right? It's just, it was fun to see and to get to do it against the defending champs and the best team in the last 2 years in the state. I think made it that much sweeter.
And final note, Flores threw for 414 yards and 3 touchdowns. Did have the 3 interceptions, and
21 of 37. We feel good about that. You look at 414. You don't feel good about that.
But Blake Moore, 153 yards and a touchdown, including the 80-yarder on one of those broken plays. Tyson Boganowski, 4 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown, 52-yard touchdown on the first broken play. Michael Sheaf, 4 catches for 89 yards, including a 56-yard catch. Caleb Schnell, 6 catches, 71 yards. His long was only 21, so slacking a little bit there.
Only.
And then Ethan Storr, the touchdown from his tight end spot, that was a really well-designed play there.
Oh, so good.
Slipping him inline tight end out into the end zone, and
good.
Nobody was there. So great play call there, and made the catch. But, yeah, just a phenomenal football game. One that I think a lot of people are going to remember for a long time. And ultimately, that could, I think, whoever had the ball last was going to win there. And Grant, ultimately, they scored too quick. You talked about that before, but again, a minute 49, you've got the whole playbook available to you at that point. You had timeouts left. So great way to end the Class A football season. But that was one of 6 games on Monday and Tuesday, and we're already almost 30 minutes in, and we've only touched on one game. Yeah. So I think we should probably move on.
Rapid fire, Class B last night, which I think surprised me a little bit in kind of the way that shook out. But I think Bennington just showing it's exactly who they are. Coach Leonard has got those guys rolling, just the way that they go about their business, kind of how they handle, what goes on with inside, outside the program, being unselfish. That is some program.
Yeah, I mean, the way I talked about it, I thought Bennington would win. I kind of thought that it would be the second half game there, though, where Bennington just kind of wore down Gross, because you look at the rosters on the program, there's a lot of white space on Gross's roster, and Bennington has filled the entire page. And Bennington, they don't have guys that play two ways. Basically, everybody plays two ways for Gross. I thought that would ultimately impact the game, just because I thought Gross would wear down. Wasn't really what happened. I mean, from the start, like the first quarter, back and forth, they each scored. It was 7-7 after one, and kind of feeling good there. Both teams have made plays both ways, and then Gross just could not move the ball after that point. Every drive
kind of got behind
out.
the sticks, a few untimely penalties, and just seemed out of sync offensively. That's not the offense that I had watched on tape or that I had seen this year. Bennington just would not allow them to run the football downhill.
No. And Jake Garcia finished with 91 yards on 19 carries, so 4.8. But a couple of those were long runs on the last drive of the game. They really did not give him a chance. Every screen pass, they were there right away. He never had space to work with. And he had a few impressive plays, but they did a great job of keeping him in check for sure. And that, I mean, they forced Gross to pass more than I think they wanted to. 14 of 29 for Colby Duncan with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Damon, I think we lost you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't. So can I keep talking?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, production for whatever the reason, like it's okay. Like if guys text that way, I can kind of know what's going on here. Am I back, Shane, or no? Yeah, okay. Like if it's not that big of a deal, let's not make it one. I'm sorry, where were we?
Yeah, Class B, and that Bennington defense just there was nothing that Gross didn't have any answers. They had 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, a pass breakup, 4 quarterback hurries, and 4 sacks. It's a pretty phenomenal day for a defense against an offense that had run roughshod the rest of Class B.
Yeah, and the funny thing is with this team, you look at guys like Covert, Trey Bird, so unassuming. Like you watch them on film and you wonder how they do it. It's all about like having command of who they are. What kind of runs? What do we need? Where's everybody else on the field? They're so well coached. They're hard to appreciate because they have a lot of good players, but their understanding of where to be and what their role is, man, as another coach, it's impressive to watch. They know exactly their situational awareness is at another level.
Yeah, and it was those 3 seniors that kind of led the way all season long, and again that they went out with great games, all 3 of them. Trey Bird, 13 for 20, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, 26.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, and also added 44 yards on the ground. Had some really nice option runs, just great reads. Hit the hole hard on the keepers. Nick Colbert, workmanlike effort, 31 carries, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. Caught 3 passes for 26 yards. And then Isaac Connor, He had the touch.
He's hard not to cheer for.
4 catches, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, including a 75-yarder for the first score of the game.
Our kids played together at Express with T&E and Coach Mitchell, and they lived right by me for years. And his dad, the family is fantastic. He's had so many injuries in his high school career, but such a good athlete. It was actually fun to see him flourish, just considering he's such a good kid. Such a good kid. And boy, he and Bird had a thing, didn't they?
Yeah, no doubt. Putting Bennington's season in context, they outscored their opponents 524 to 113 this season. The closest game was 14 points, and most of them
that was Elkhorn, right?
Yeah, I think.
Oh no, Waverly.
Yes, the 21. Yeah, the 21-7. I think it was
Waverly.
But yeah, and just that game, 2 phenomenal running backs. Colbert finished the season with 1,751 yards and 22 touchdowns rushing, plus 244 yards and 5 touchdowns receiving. Garcia just short of 2,000 yards, 1,941, 25 touchdowns, and caught 13 passes for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. So two phenomenal running backs going at it, but Bennington as a team, just too much.
Let's jump down to C1.
The Benjamin Bramer Show.
Wow. He's so good. I don't know any other way to really put it. I think he's fantastic. I think he's top 3 players in his class. I think he's proven that. And he's the guy that, for his size and his length, his ability to get to top speed in a hurry is borderline impressive.
Yeah, it was. I described it as Trey Palmer against Purdue levels of always open. Like anytime that they're going to throw the ball, just throw to Bramer. Like he caught all 11 of his targets for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a C1 record, and he broke the record with a 75-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I know that, and that drew the ire of some folks. And listen, I didn't get the backstory. I don't know if it was about the record. I don't know if it was just because it was there. Coach Bramer seems like the type of coach to play it through to the end. So I didn't really. It didn't bother me one way or the other. I mean, he's going against a classy coach in Kyle Peterson from Aurora. So I mean, I didn't make too much of that.
Yeah, neither. I mean, it's the kid's last game, playing on his future home field
potentially.
If he wants to close that thing out, so be it. I kind of felt the same way on the Pius dunk against Ron Colley and State. It's a game. Go have fun. Go make a lasting memory. And I honestly, I looked out there and I didn't see him out there. I was trying to find his number. So in my doc, I started typing out his final numbers because he was the lead for the story. And then I looked up and he's streaking down the sideline. And I was like, he is back out there. And when immediately started deleting what I had typed and redoing it because I had to update it. But just the connection that he has with Abram Schulting. And Bramer also added an interception on defense, so he's catching passes from both teams.
Yeah, I think he's top 3 in the class. I think it's Flores, Noonan, and Bramer, and you can sort out the order, but.
Yeah, and it was a combination the way he did it. There was running past everybody. There was finding a hole in the defense,
toughness,
and then evading everybody and winning a foot race to the end zone. There was one where he took a big hit after a catch, got right back up.
Good inline blocker.
And
he's done that since he was a freshman, right? His dad hasn't been afraid to use him as a blocking tight end, and he put him on the backside of routes. He's well adjusted.
And imagine what he's going to look like getting into a strength and conditioning program at the college level.
I'm telling you, I'm going to call him a steal because I don't think he gets the notoriety he deserves. He is and I don't get like that a ton. He's the real deal. He is the real deal.
And the partner in crime, Abram Schulting, 14 for 18 for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns. Only 31 yards on the ground.
Got some Trey Bird to his game, right?
100%.
Complete command.
Yes.
And you get him on the edge where he can make decisions. Abram Schulting was. What do you account for? almost 40 touchdowns, right? I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing.
And I mean, they got to a rough start, like that first drive of the game.
It wasn't pretty.
I don't know what they were. It was 4th and 6 deep in their own end zone.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what the play call even was.
Yeah, and even if that was a punt, could you do that off the pitch and then the kick? I don't think you get the 2 snaps and then could kick it. Like,
I don't know what that was, but Schulting a bad pitch to Bramer deep in the backfield on 4th and 6 in their own territory, turned it over. Aurora goes and scores, takes a touchdown. Like 3 Carlos Collazo runs, gets them inside, and then Drew Canoes punched it in on the QB keeper.
Tough guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
I would have enjoyed seeing a healthy Carlos Collazo, but as unfortunately we know too well, you have to be fortunate to make a run like this, and a lot of times health comes with it for a lot of these teams that play this far into the season.
100%, but so. It was 6-0 Aurora after a failed PAT, and then Pierce fires back. They tie it up. The point after fails as well, and then Aurora they score on a Collazo run to take the lead 14-6, and Pierce puts together a phenomenal drive late in the half to tie it up, score with 12 seconds left, to make it 14-14 at halftime. And then the second half completely dominated by
You
Pierce.
could see about halfway through the second quarter, Pierce offensive and defensive lines really starting to establish themselves, which kind of caught me off guard because I think going in, I really liked Aurora's offensive line. But Pierce collectively plays so hard up front. And, listen, without a healthy Collazo and Canoes taking all those shots, I think ultimately the physicality just wore Aurora down because I don't know if they were expecting that. You don't see that when you watch Pierce, but you know that when you listen to the pads crack. Sometimes I think when you watch tape, you're like, it's hard to gauge physicality, but Pierce was the much more physical team yesterday, and I think it showed late.
Aurora gained 110 yards on 32 plays in the second half. They had the second half they just could not get anything going, and Pierce continued to run the fine Ben Bramer play. So yeah, it just dominant second half. 3 drives ended in a turnover on downs, and 2 more end with interceptions. That was Aurora's second half.
Yeah.
And to be, I mean, the game was already over at this point, but Booker Shireman came in at quarterback, Baylor's brother. Beauty of a dime up the right sideline. I don't know if the receiver just was already thinking about his celebration or just assumed it was going to make the catch.
He looked up, you could see his eyes. Yeah. He kind of checked up but Shireman, he appears to be a talent. How about the frame? Go 6'6", 170. I don't know if he's 170, but man, if he goes into that, he can spin it. The future's definitely bright with Shireman.
Yep. But impressed, seeing Carlos Collazo gut that out. He got hit hard, went down.
And he was playing really good defense too.
And he was in a couple plays, just shot through the backfield.
He's a tough kid.
And then a few plays later, after getting knocked out, I was like, oh, hey, there's number 2. He's back out there again.
He knew what was at stake.
Oh, yeah. And you could see, again, he wasn't 100%, but some of the carries he had, some of the plays where you could just see the shift, the feet, the toughness. The touchdown he had, just a phenomenal bit of running where got stopped 3 yards short, spun, kept his feet churning to push backwards. Yeah. Spun again, put his hand down on the ground to keep himself off the turf, and fell into the end zone. That just it doesn't get better than that. It was a heck of an effort. They had him stop short, and he just wouldn't be denied.
Congratulations to Pierce on that one. And as we jump over to C2, Coach Beller just doing Coach Beller things. He wins a ton. He gets to double digits in terms of state championships. Oh, they're a machine. Just a buzzsaw for Cedar Catholic, who still has yet to score.
Yeah, and credit to Cedar Catholic, the only double-digit seed that made it to Memorial Stadium. Unbelievable run, but Norfolk Catholic, like you said, is just a machine. 23-0. Cedar Catholic just couldn't get anything on offense. They 147
the
total
first time
yards.
those two teams played. It was just tough sledding in terms of the matchup.
And Cedar Catholic defensively, they kind of hung around. Again,
They did.
23.
It's a good defensive football team.
But 147 yards and 0 points. It's just it's not going to get it done. It's not how you win a game. And Norfolk Catholic, they spread the ball around. A bunch of different guys got carries.
I like their offense.
Carter Kirkman, Canyon Talton,
who wasn't healthy, but Kirkman can run the rock.
Yeah, and they limit him to just 12 carries. Talton kind of led them in carries with 18 in there. They both produced 67 yards and a touchdown. So just kind of, I mean, it wasn't ever really any drama in that
Cedar
game.
Catholic just not, again, health.
Yeah.
Lose your top two runners. You got to make some adjustments going from running back to quarterback, and a heck of a run and a heck of a season for those folks. And if there's such a thing as good losses, Cedar Catholic had them.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, phenomenal run by them, and credit to that school for what they accomplished this season.
What's the tail end of this one as we jump over to Clarkson Lee and Neely Oakdale? You saw the run that Neely got out to, and you're thinking, uh-oh, here we go. And then you blinked, and it was 40 unanswered from Clarkson Lee. Yeah. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, just, again, like you said, just 40 unanswered. That's just unbelievable. 48-20 was the final there. Again, to fall behind 14-0 right out the gates, and then just dominate the rest of the way. And to do it, like, this isn't a team that has a lot of tricks, a lot of bells and whistles. They're just going to do what they do.
Like 45 for 320?
They're going to give the ball to Kyle Kasich, and it's up to you to stop him. And Neely Oakdale could not stop him. Like you said, 45 carries for 320 yards and 6 touchdowns.
That's not a typo.
No, 45 for 320 and 6.
Yeah.
And he played defense too. He had 8 tackles, 2.5 for loss, an interception, and a pass breakup. Just we talked about Aiden Kuster last week, and just the game that he had in the semifinals. And
he had 218 yards of total offense yesterday, and it wasn't, or 2 days ago, and it wasn't anywhere near enough.
Yeah, and
that's saying something.
Well, and Kuster is the nation's all-time leader in career total yardage for. I totally missed that when we were talking about last week that he set that record. He finished his career with 12,249 total yards, and he didn't even start his whole freshman year. Yeah. Like, he only played a few games in his freshman year, and then was a 3-year starter. But I get, like, 8-man is different than 11-man, but I don't care. Like, just what he's able to do. Almost 8,000 yards passing, almost 4,300 rushing, 181 total touchdowns, 88 passing, 93 rushing. Scored 708 total points, 497 total tackles, including 62 for loss. Like, just an unreal player. But on that field, he wasn't the best player in the game. Yeah. And that went to Kyle Kasich. They had no answer for him. And just, again, one of the better performances that I've seen on that stage.
And then perhaps congratulations to Clarkson Lee. And how about how this Monday got started with Hitchcock County and Howes Dodge, a couple of juggernauts slugging this one out.
Yeah, and it's another one where it was a game in the first half, and then the other team kind of took over in the second half. It was 22 final. There was the score for Hitchcock County. They scored first, went ahead 8-0, and then Howes Dodge, 2 touchdowns.
Heck of a career for Brester.
Oh, yeah. And he had another big game.
Such a good player.
But they took a 12-8 lead into halftime and then didn't score again. It was 14-0 in the second half in favor of Hitchcock County. And Keenan Gaston led the way on the offense, had 99 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and threw a 45-yard touchdown.
And you're watching that game and you're thinking neither team is rushing for more than 4 yards a carry. And they're rushing the football. You know, Howes Dodge rushed it 54 times. Hitchcock County goes for 43, all under 4 yards a carry. I mean, the physicality in that game, that crisp sun was shining down on the field earlier. I mean, there were some pads popping in that one.
Yeah, and they led 16-12 in the fourth quarter for Hitchcock County. Forced a turnover on downs at the Howells Dodge 27-yard line with just under 6 minutes to play. And they basically ran out the clock. 11 plays, 27 yards, 4 minutes and 46 seconds of game time, and a dagger touchdown on fourth and goal from the 1 with 58 seconds to play. So, I mean, Howells Dodge had their chances, and the Hitchcock County defense just stiffened up and stopped them. Howells Dodge had 2 opportunities to get the ball back on that last drive. First, Hitchcock County had 4th and 3 at the 8-yard line with 2:28 to play, and Gaston kept it himself, picked up 4 yards, and lost the ball. But Trent Kisker, who caught the 45-yard touchdown, first to the ball, secured it, and got the Falcons a new set of downs at the 4-yard line. And then picked up 3 yards on the first down, and then they stuffed them on the next 2, setting up the 4th down, and then just pitched it, sprinted out to the corner, ran through a tackle to get there. Like, they had a chance to get him down and just powered through, got to the pylon, ball game. So phenomenal effort there.
Replay, which, by the way, in the state of Nebraska, Mar and those guys, they do an amazing job with the high school replay at the state championship game. It is a nice luxury to have.
Yeah. That's games in 2 days.
Yeah, that's rapid fire. 6 games. Congratulations to the champs on a season well earned. Congratulations to those runner-ups as well. If you're playing and practicing under the lights, you're probably a pretty good football team. And having said that, we'll transition quickly with NEB preps as you and I get into a sport we both love, and that is high school hoops.
Hoop season. Jamboree is already starting here. The season starts on Thursday, December 1st. So excited to get back at it.
What are we waiting for? Westside will be in the gym against a talented Scott team on Saturday. A lot of teams will be scrimmaging. I'm curious to see what happens with Gretna and Platteview as they'll see one another in an exhibition. Lots going on, man. Don't you dare miss us. We'll be back next week. It's Nebraska Preps Post Games. That's Jacob Padilla. I'm ODB.